We can start? Yeah. Okay. So today we are going to look at what is music, musical instrument. So how do you understand this term, musical instrument? What is musical instrument?
A device or object that produces music.
So it's a device or object that produce musical sound. So these musical instruments, they are used to create or to accompany or to enhance music. So their purpose of using the musical instruments is to create or to accompany or enhance the music. That's the purpose of having the musical instrument. So the sound production, vibration that travel through air or other mediums varies by the type of the instrument. So there are different musical instruments that produce different sounds. So some sounds, they can make sounds, some musical instruments, they can make sound by vibrating the strings. Some they can make sound by blowing air in the tube or in a pipe. It makes sounds. So there are different musical instruments based on the different types of the musical instruments that are used. So for example, the one that uses the air, the trumpet, flute, those are the type of the musical instruments that use air for them to make sound. So let's start looking at the historical context of musical instrument. Ancient origins, earliest instruments, our forefathers, they also used the musical instruments in music. So there are some musical instruments that have been there and others they were just modified using other things. But now we are going to look at the old musical instruments that our forefathers used. Examples. What are examples of this kind of musical instrument?
Ancient origins.
Examples of the musical instruments that were used by our forefathers.
Drums.
The drums,
Mm,
the flutes. Flute, there is also another example of the musical instrument that were used by the ancient. So if you see the drums, people will make their own drums, simple drums that do not use electricity. So they have been there for a long time. And a different culture, they also make their different drums according to their culture. So on the cultural significance of these musical instruments, what are the cultural significance?
Communication, entertainment, and
Rituals.
solutions.
Yes. So the cultural significance of the musical instruments, it was for communication. If there is a certain important message in the community, people they use the musical instruments to pass the message to the people. For example, if there is a funeral, they could hit the bell. The type of their hitting could communicate to the people that there's funeral in this community. In other, for entertainment, maybe during the weddings, during the other social gatherings, they use the musical instruments for entertainment. What about rituals? You have the rituals in the tumbukas. If someone is sick, they play the zimboza dance. That's the ritual for healing. They believe that if they are going to play that kind of music, the person will be healed. So that's ritual. In other cultures, if they don't have the rainfall, they'll have a certain dance
Praying for the rain.
praying for the rain. The Mbona, they also have their own musical instruments that they play and they use so that they are communicating to the people. So that's another way of using the musical instrument. So in the modern evolution, people also use the musical instruments. So there are also some musical instruments that were modified based on the new technology. So you can see the example of the piano, the example of electronic instruments like the drums, the guitar. It's just the modern evolution of the musical instrument. But the knowledge is coming from what our forefathers invented to use in the music. So the piano, the same keyboard we know, the same xylophone that we know, they just modified using their own ways, science, so that they can come up with a piano. The drums, the same drums, but they want to have a set of drums that can be played by one person, and they use electricity. In so doing, they have also modified their drums. So there are also some modern musical instruments. So let's look at the traditional versus modern instrument. Traditional instruments, for example, African drums, bamboo flute, these are some of the traditional instruments that in Africa people were using, or some cultures that are still using them. So it's not only the bamboo flute, but they can also make the reed flute. In Chichewa, they call it badza. They make it through using the reed. So in other cultures, they use a bamboo, a bamboo. So a bamboo, it can also use to create as a flute. So they make holes because the bamboo has got a big hole inside. So they create some holes so that they can play as a flute. Some cultures, the flute look like. Have you seen? Okay, let me look for the image of the flute. Have you seen the Tongas when they're dancing their when they're dancing their malipenga?
Yes.
They use the calabash that it has got chimachoka kumponda, what chimati mponda? Ndizungu, eh? It's the same family of the zungu. And akapanga chimene chichacho amachibola ndokumanga, and it produces sound as a flute. So amene anapanga modern flute, they copied the idea from that. So let me show the flute, the image of the flute. I thought you are not coming. Welcome. We are looking at the musical instrument. So what is a musical instrument? Miriam, what is a musical instrument? Have we ever heard about this term? Musical instrument. What is it?
Device that can produce sound.
Any device or object that can produce sound is called a musical instrument. Okay, so we are saying that musical instruments were created with different reasons. Let me see the image. So the fruit, they look like this. Let's see the local ones. You see? This is the fruit. So they make from baboon, they can make from the leads. Banquet. They can make this kind of fruit. So the modern one, then they made different one, but then in the same category. The modern fruits that people are using, they are like these ones. So the modern, this is how people modify it. But the original idea, they used the lead or the baboon. So they modified, making the like that. So we are looking at traditional versus modern musical instruments. So we're saying our forefathers, they also use the musical instruments. So examples of the musical instruments that our forefathers used were drums, they were flute, and in the modern musical instruments, they also just modify the same musical instruments to suit the modern technology. So they use the same flute, the idea of the flute, but they made them differently, using different materials. The same drums, but they modify them using the electric drums, the set of drums that can be played by one person, and they are still called the drums. So the modern, the traditional musical instruments, they were created with different reasons. For entertainment, people use the musical instruments to entertain each other. They also use the musical instrument for communication. In case there's a certain message, whether it's funeral, people play musical instruments to communicate to the people that there's a funeral. So they also use the musical instruments for rituals. So I said, how does the people use musical instruments as rituals? Do you have an example, Miriam, as rituals? Do you have example? Which tribe are you? Tonga. You don't have rituals in Tonga. You only have for entertainment. The Maripenga and what? Azimaya Mavina Gule Wanje. Chirimika. But in other culture, they use musical instruments for rituals. For example, the tumbukas. When someone is sick, So they will invite people to dance vimbuza and play with their musical instruments, and the person will be healed. So that's the ritual. And in other cultures, they will play the musical instruments just to pray to God for them to give them rains if they have any chronic diseases or the outbreak. So they will pray the musical instruments so that their assistants can assist them with the calamities which they are facing. So if we see that the law of the traditional musical instruments is to preserve the culture and also teach traditional music. Without using the local or traditional musical instrument, then it will be difficult for us to preserve our culture. Such that it is very important for us to be using these traditional musical instruments so that we can preserve our culture, and also we should be involved training our little ones using these local musical instruments so that they can also pass this to their children in the future. In so doing, we are able to preserve our culture. Even in dancing, we have to be involved in dancing the traditional musicals. Though that time we went to Chingalile, most of us were shy to dance. Miriam, you were there, but you did it. You were shy. I hope, had we that Wes was there, we could manage. You could join the dance. So, what about the modern instruments? What is the use of the modern instruments? So on the modern instruments, they are saying that examples of the modern instruments, they are guitars, digital keyboard. These are examples of the modern instruments. So what are they? What is the use of modern instruments? Media. What is the use of the modern instrument? The modern musical instruments, they are used in contemporary music education and production. The relevance for this is variable to diverse learning experience. We want children to have the diverse learning experience using the different musical instruments. So kind of musical instruments, the overview of it, they're saying traditional musical instrument, example, drums, bamboo flute. The law is culture. The law is cultural prevention, and teaching traditional music. On modern instruments, example, electric guitar and keyboard used contemporary music education and production. It's relevant in education. It's both types are variable for diverse learning experience. So both the local or the traditional and the modern, they are good for diverse learning in children. So we are going to look at the categories of these music instruments, and under each category, we are going to look at some of the musical instruments that are that category. So, for example, we are going to start with the percussion instrument. So, the definition: what are the percussion musical instruments? What are the percussion musical instruments?
Instruments that produce sound.
Instruments that produce sound when hit, shaken, or scrapped. Those are called percussion musical instruments. So what are the examples of the percussion musical instruments? Drums, tambourine, xylophone, 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 tambourine. Those are examples of the musical instruments that produce sound when shaken, hit, or scrapped. Do you know a xylophone? Okay, let me show you the image of the xylophone. Maybe when I show you the image, you'll be able to connect. Here in Malawi, they are commonly played by the singers, the xylophone. It looks like this. You know it? So this one.
I know it, but I know it.
Oh, you didn't know the name. So this is the example of the xylophone. So they are of different sizes based on the sound that we want it to produce. Okay, the tambourine, do you know the tambourine? It's a small, like a shake, it's not like a shaker, it has got a skin the other side. They tie some metals around, so they shake. When they're shaking, it beats the drum, it hits the drum. Let me show the example of this tambourine. They look like this.
It has space here.
Hmm?
It has space.
Yeah, it can have a space here, or it can have a skin of animal, like this one.
That's it, I'm moving.
Yes. Some they look like this. You saw it? You check it? So they are shaken, and they produce sound. What is the role of the percussion instrument in early childhood education? Coordination. Okay. Let's start with the rhythm development. When you are hitting the drum, it produces a certain rhythm that motivates someone to start shaking the head. So what makes someone to be shaking the head is the rhythm that is coming from that musical instrument. So it helps you to internalize and produce rhythmic patterns. So So different drums, they produce different rhythm. So you find like the Gure Wankuru, when they are playing their drums, they have 3 drums. The other one is a bass, the other one is the sapu, the other one is a tina. So when they are hitting, people should hear from afar that, hey, Gure Wayambika, let's go. So the rhythm will attract the listeners or the audience. What about coordination? What is it? Why the percussion and musical instruments, they can help the coordination?
Engage motor skills for strength and
As the children are engaged, shaking or beating, hitting the drum, that means they are using their fine motor skills. The fine and the large, if it's a drum, that means even the arms, they are involved. If they are using the tambourine, they will be shaking. So in so doing, that means the fine or the large muscles, they are also enhanced in children. So that's the law of it in the early childhood education. So if we provide this kind of the materials, then we are also fostering the fine or the physical development in them. What about engaging?
capture students' attention and encourage participation.
As we are playing the musical instruments, it attracts the attention of the children. It encourages them to participate because they are using the musical instruments, the percussions, musical instruments. So you can't start beating drums and no one is participating. That means that child is that day maybe is not feeling well. But if the child is physically fine, once these percussions or instruments, you are using them, they are played, then every child will be able to participate, will be able to dance, will be able to try to learn how they can play the musical instruments. So in so doing, we are engaging everyone to participate in that.
Madam, like, okay, what we are doing here, there are types of instruments.
Okay, there are the categories of musical instruments. So the categories of the musical instruments, there are percussions, musical instruments. Under the percussions or musical instruments, what are the materials? The musical instruments under the percussions and musical instruments. So we see that under percussions and musical instruments, we have the drums, we have the xylophone, we have the tambourine. Under musical percussions and musical instruments. And we can also add even a shaker. Shakers, they are under the percussions and musical instruments. But under these percussions and musical instruments, the law of these musical instruments in child development or in child education, what is the law of having the percussions and musical instruments in early childhood education? So we are having drums, we are having shakers, we are having the tambourine or the xylophone. What is the law in early childhood education? So you see that.
Yes, there I understand, but I'm asking like maybe they are instruments for making music. Because I can see percussion string instruments with way down behind the
Yeah.
string. So they are what? They are instruments for making music.
Yes. Instruments for making music, they are percussions, they are wind, they are string. Those are the instruments that are used to make music. So under that, you find the examples of the musical instruments that are under that category. Are we okay? So on the percussions instruments demonstrations, we need to have some activities that can encourage the engagement, that encourage the coordination that we talked, that can also encourage the rhythm that we talked. So how can we enhance this? By clapping, rhythmatic clapping. Children clap along to a simple beat then transfer it to drums. So if you are teaching a child how to use the percussion musical instruments, for example, drums, you can't just go direct to the drums. You need to start with claps. So you clap a certain pattern, and children, if they are familiar with that kind of clap, then they can transfer that pattern of clap to the drum. You remember Miriam, Chingalile was demonstrating with his youth on how they can make sounds using their body parts. So if they are familiar with that kind of clap, then they can be easy transfer that pattern to the drums. So the first thing you need to start using by a clap. Then there's the second activity, exploring sound. Let children experience with different percussion instruments. You need to have the variety of percussion musical instruments so that the children, they should be able to explore the sound. For example, if you have the xylophone, if you have the drums of different sizes, the tambourine, if they hit a xylophone, they'll see that the sound that is coming from the xylophone is different from the one coming from the drum. So in so doing, they are able to explore different sounds from different musical instruments that are available on that particular time. So another activity that we can do is group drumming. Children play together, learning about cooperation and time. So you can also group them to use the musical instrument. In so doing, that means we are also enhancing the social relationship among them. They will learn to cooperate, to collaborate as they are playing the musical instruments. So it will enhance their social or the relationship with their own peers in the classroom. So if you don't have enough materials, you can group them so that everyone should be able to participate. So what about on this exploration? What can we do if we have few materials? How can we assist the children to explore the different sound? You only have one drum, but the activity under percussions, they want children to explore different sounds from different musical instruments under the percussions. How can you assist the children to explore different sounds?
Yes. Can use local resources like their containers,
Mm-hmm.
spoons,
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have enough the musical instruments, let's say a drum is only one, then you can also try using the spoon. If they hit the spoon, the sound that can come from there, it can be different from the sound that is coming from a drum. So in so doing, that means exploring sound, we are enhancing it. So we shouldn't be limited that I don't have enough materials, but we should be using the opportunity of locally available resources so that we can meet the needs of the children. So the second one is string instrument. So what are the string instruments? Instruments that produce sound through the vibration of strings. Do we have examples of instruments under this category? Guitars, violin, harps. Okay. So the examples are guitars, electric guitars, by plugging the strumming, the violin played with a bow, producing a wide range of tones. So these are some of the examples of the musical instrument under the strings. So what is the importance of the string instrument in child development?
Motor skills.
How?
Playing string instrument develops finger.
As the children are playing the musical instrument using the string, like the guitar, it involves the using their fingers on plucking the strings. So as they are doing that, the hand-eye coordination is also enhanced because they have to be checking where they are plucking the strings. Because different strings they also produce different sounds on the guitar, so they should be able. There's change of fingers there. And have you ever seen when someone is playing a guitar, they have to change the fingers, pressing the string as they are plucking so that it should produce the desired sound that they are looking for. So in so doing, the fine motor skills are what? Enhanced. Okay, what else apart from the fine motor skills?
Auditor discrimination.
Auditory discrimination. How?
This helps children distinguish different speeches and notes.
As the children are playing the music, the guitar, they will be able to distinguish different pitches and tones from the string. What about cognitive benefits?
Enhances memory and concentration, learning, melodies and fingering.
As the children are involved in playing the guitar, they have to memorize. If I press this string hard, it will produce this sound. If I'm looking for this kind of sound, I have to press this string. So there is much of memory work as they are playing the guitar. So in so doing, it enhances their cognitive development. There is a cognitive benefit in it. So how can we demonstrate this to children? What kind of activities can we do with children so that they can enhance their skills in playing the guitars? What can we do?
Simple plucking.
We need to have simple practicing activities. Yeah? Children learn to pluck strings in rhythm, developing coordination. Then the second activity, what can we do? They should be engaged in playing melodies, introduce simple familiar tunes on string instruments. Then the third activity, children collaborate to play songs, learn teamwork and timing. So in so doing, it also enhancing their social relationship with their peers in a classroom because they are engaged in group work. In case we don't have enough materials, having them in group work, it will also enhance their participation, collaboration, during the playing of this kind of musical instrument in a classroom. Now we are going to wind instrument. What are the wind instruments?
That produce sound through the vibration of the insect tube.
Instruments that produce sound through the vibration of air inside a tube. So examples of these kind of materials are what? Flute. We also have trumpets. Okay. So the flute, the example, the flute are the ones I shared you previously, that you can make through the bubble or from the reed, and in other cultures they use from the pumpkin, the pipe from the pumpkins. They can also make flute. While the trumpets, these are kind of the musical instruments which are modern. You have to buy from the shop. But locals, they were using the reed, the baboon. Sometimes they could use even the horn of animals. I don't know if you have ever seen people using the horn of animals as a flute. So that's the way how they were making their own traditional flute, using the horn of animals, using pipes and tie at one end so that it can produce sound and make some holes. So in so doing, the wind instruments were created. So what are the benefits of wind instruments in early childhood education? How?
Encourages children to develop lung capacity and
When you're using a trumpet or a fufuzela, you have to use wind. So you prepare your lungs to blow amount of air in that pipe so that it can produce that sound. Unfortunately, I forgot the trumpet. I have the fufuzela, the flute. If you blow, if you blow slowly with a little amount of air, the sound is not going to be loud. If we prepare the air to be more, and it will also produce loud voice. So in so doing, you are preparing your lungs. Breath control. Okay. What about speech and tone recognition?
teaches children to differentiate between high and low pitches.
So the same flute, if you tell, can you make this sound to be loud? Then they will have to prepare with a lot of air so that when they're blowing, it should produce loud voice. If you want it to be low, it also prepares them not to use too much air when they're blowing. In so doing, the sound that will come out from there, it will be what? Low. So in so doing, they will be able to appreciate the concept of high and low tone or volume or sound. They will be able to appreciate that through the wind instrument. What about cognitive and physical coordination? How can this be enhanced as they're using the wind instrument? Always. How can cognitive and physical coordination be enhanced as they're playing the wind instruments?
And then cognitively, that means it will help children memory.
Memory.
It will enhance memory.
While on physical,
Physical cognition, maybe um,
on physical. How? Because the fruit, they make some holes on top of it. There is need for one who is using a fruit to be changing to close the holes for it to produce sound. If you blow without closing one or two holes, the sound will not come out. So there is need for one who is using the flute to have that skill of knowing how she or he can close those holes that are on top of the flute so that they can produce the desired sound. So in so doing, she or he is using the what? The fingers. So they have to be memory, they have to be remembering on where should I touch my finger or where should I press so that the sound should come out. The desired sound should come out. At the same time, she or he is using a finger to close the what? The holes which are there. So that develop the fine motor skills. So there will be hand-eye coordination. So what kind of activities that we need to do with children so that we can enhance this? Breathing exercise. Why is it important to have this breathing exercise? Tunaimba kwa waya? Mnaimba kwa waya? Not you. Where's Miriam? Anaimba kwa waya? Kwa waya mkamamba umene kuimba, what happens? So mnaambe kuimba normal kuimba koma what happens msanambe kuimba nyimbo? They have to engage you in a breathing exercise. They will tell you breathe in, out, in, so that the breathing control, you should be able to start mastering it. Otherwise, if you cannot control your breathing, the sound will not come out clear. So you have to engage children in the breathing control. Practice a deep breath, then use it to produce sound as a recorder, as on a recorder. So the breathing control is very, very important because for the music to be effective, this has to be controlled, especially with wind instruments. If you are not controlling your breathing control, then upezeka kuti wasamidwa atu. Pamene ukuyesera kuti uimbe chifluti chicha, basi wakanika wabanika. So you have to control that. What else? Another activity, what else can we do? We can have simple melodies, Teach children to play basic songs on flute or recorders. So there are some flute that we can use, they can try. As they are singing, they are also playing the what? The flute. So in so doing, we will be able to create the simple melodies. What about another activity? Echo games. One child plays a note and others try to match it, developing listening skills. Then the next one we have here is electronic instrument. What are the electronic instruments? They generate sound electronically. They require electricity for them to generate sound. Without using electricity, the sound cannot be good. Uli ngati ku show wabwera woyimba live performance mageso kankhala kulibe show imakhalera yasokonezeka pamenepopo because the kind of the musical instruments that are there, they have to use electricity. So what are examples of the musical instruments under electronic instruments? The keyboard, the synthesizer, the drum machines. These are examples of the electronic instruments that require electricity for them to produce sound. Do we know the synthesizer? So the drum machine, they look like this. These ones here. The synthesizer, they look, the ones that the DJ uses. Do you know those ones? The DJ uses a set of like this table. There are some buttons that he presses.
But I was thinking them like
Those are examples of the synthesizers. I'm looking for it, I can't find it. When you want it, you can see it. When you don't want it, then you basically must avoid. But those are the examples of the synthesizer that are used. The one the DJs normally use. So those ones they use electricity. Without electricity, you cannot use that kind of musical instrument. So what is the law of electronic instruments in modern education? What is the law of this electronic musical instrument? Diverse music. So it can replicate many sounds, allowing for diverse music making experience. They'll be able to know different sounds because they're using electronic. If it's the piano, you find when you press another key, it produces loud voice. Another one bass, another one auto, so they will be able to differentiate this. They will be able to understand different sounds from that. Apart from that, what else can be the law of this electronic instrument?
technology integration.
Yes, it allows children to understand the technology, the use of technology in music. So in so doing, it will also be able to create opportunity for them maybe to create their own musical instruments in the future using technology after learning how to use the musical instruments under the electronic instruments. So it will give room for children in the future to come up with their own musical instruments which are using electronically. What else? What is another important? Mm-hmm. Many electronic instruments are user-friendly with pre-programmed sound and rhythm. So some of the musical instruments like the piano or the keyboard instrument, you can program them, tuning them in advance so that when you are placing the keys, they should be able to produce the sound that you are looking for. Unlike with the traditional musical instruments, you cannot tune like the xylophone. You can't tune anywhere. That one, it just requires your skill on how you can beat or hit the timber so that they can produce sound. On this one, because it's already programmed, you set it, then when we are pressing the keys, it will be able to produce the sound which you are looking because you have already programmed. So it can be user-friendly for children, not having challenges for them to come up with their own music. And they'll be able also to be appreciating different rhythm that come from that. So what are the activities that we can engage children so that they can appreciate these electronic instruments? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we need to have the keyboard that will allow children to experiment with different sounds and effects. Nowadays, you find that in other shops, there are small keyboard for children. They are made from plastic, they're electronic, you can connect to electricity, and children can practice. But this is good for town. But if you think about rural areas where you don't have electricity, it can be challenging somehow for you to use this kind of musical instrument. Unless if you have got the backup of solar or genset that can provide power, then that will be good. But we really need to use electricity on this kind of musical instruments. What can be another activity that can children be engaged? Mhm. Creating simple tracks. You want children to have their own recordings on music. So if you want children to have recording on music by using synthesizer, because this material you program it, then children can be easily use these kind of musical instruments and come up with their own music using this kind of materials.